Oh my gosh, I can hear you great. It is time for another Extreme Takes. I am Jerry Ramsey. Remember, Extreme Takes brought to you by Extreme Roll Off Service. They can take care of all your roll off needs at 10, 20, and now 30-yard dumpsters. All you got to do is give them a call. They will come to you. 405 397 3342. Extreme Roll Off Services. I'm joined this week by Owen Pickard from Jake FM and the Oklahoma Opry. Owen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Well, Jerry, I can't picture a better way to enjoy an evening on the back patio after some leftover crock pot chicken than spending it with you here.
Are you reading
Yeah.
that? Did you type
What?
that out to read that?
I had to. My wife was holding cue cards behind the camera here. We worked it up for the last 30 minutes on how to best say that, and I think I delivered it well.
Now, you and I, and I usually don't bring, personal stuff to
Oh,
the show
no.
with me, but do you realize you and I had a text conversation and you were telling me you're about to finish your chicken lefties?
Yeah, I try to get to. For some reason, you bring out the trendiness in everybody. And so that was my way of trying to fit in with the hip vibe that you have here on the Extreme Take show.
Got you completely. All right. So here's
Yeah.
what people might not know about you. Okay. Obviously, you are really, really up to date with everything in country music. And as far as the local scene goes, you are a major contributor in helping get some of this stuff across to us here in Oklahoma City and the surrounding areas. Really appreciate what you do with that. But you are a staunch OU Sooner fan.
Well, if you've ever seen the coverage of a guy in Blanchard who took his backyard and turned it into a mini football field, that's me. I believe the legend I'd like to take to the grave with me uh, for my boys, for being sooner born and sooner bred, because when you die, you're sooner dead.
Yeah.
I say all that to say I don't know if I'm doing it this year, but yeah, I'm a staunch, born in Norman, OU. Uh, I was in the formative years of becoming a football fan right there around the 2000 national championship, and I've just been holding on tight for that day to come. Hopefully, not in another 24 years. I'll tell you this too, Jerry. I don't know if I've ever mentioned. My dad is a paramedic in Norman. He's been that way for going on 33 years. It's the MSTAT service that runs through Norman Regional. And I'm telling you why I'm really an OU fan. They cover the practices and the games, right, as the medics on site. And before the national championship, when I was 8 or 9, my dad would say, "Hey, let's go. You can come with me on standby during the game on the sideline."
Okay.
And of course, yeah, he put me in a one of their temporary shirts. He told me it was to blend in, like I was with the medics, but it was just to be cool. And they still stand there, MSTAT, right there on the southwest where the visiting team goes to their locker room. And so you'd stand there and watch these giant of players come through the tunnel, and you'd get to just wait and see if your dad gets to go on the field because there's a turn backwards leg or something. But that is where my true fandom started. A little unique to most on the sidelines as a kid at the games.
I I think about it now. So you're just sitting there waiting for a player to get hurt. Like that's the entire time you're sitting there. Your dad doesn't get any action until somebody gets hurt. So you're just like
Yes.
sitting there.
Well,
Oh, did he waiting for someone to get hurt?
in his position, yeah. Then the other part of the crew, they're going up and down the stairs in the hot games with dehydrated fans. But when I would think back on it, what would have happened if, Heupel would have got smashed and they had to go cart him off the field? Where would I have gone? Did my dad think that through? I don't know. I've yet to ask him because I was with him, and you're there 2 hours before the game and like 2 hours after, sometimes longer. Long day, and because they leave and go to the hospital, right? In those
Sure.
major situations. What? I'm not. Would my mom come pick me up? Would I go hang out in the locker room with this former trainer? I don't know. So maybe
No, he
that's
would take
why.
you with you. He would take you with you. You had
I
the
guess.
shirt on. He would probably ask you to apply ice, or maybe do something
Well,
like that.
one of my favorite stories from doing that was a summer practice. Practices were fun just to get out of the house basically because nothing really. But it got hot one summer and we were just messing around in the locker room, training room, and all of a sudden this was, I remember vividly because the upper brass with a player comes busting into the training room. You've got Stoops, Venables. So I think it was a defensive player who was down, and Scott Anderson, who used to be the trainer at OU, and they get him up on this table, and this is a player who needed an IV, and with all these big shots, and to me, they're just heroes and these huge personalities, and I'm just a kid in the room. My dad, among all those people, turns to me in this moment, says, "Hey, Owen, get me a tourniquet." And I have no idea what the tourniquet would. I don't know the medical equipment. And he says it's that big rubber band thing we were snapping and playing with. I was like, oh, okay. So I grabbed it. But I thought, I don't know what this is, and this guy's probably gonna die because I don't know how to help. But my dad, I don't. He just wanted to make me feel a part of the moment or something. But so yeah, that's the long version of why I'm a big OU fan. I mean, getting to be like up close and personal. But now, my dad always said, once they won the championship, they cut security, and you had to be credentialed
Sure.
member
Yep.
of the sidelines like you are, Mr. Ramsey, a
Well,
credentialed member.
yes, sir. I am have I mentioned that to you? I am a
I've
credentialed
heard,
member to.
I've
Okay.
seen it.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So don't get too close to it. Don't infect it.
Yeah,
But here they are this year, headed to the SEC. Right, it's taken a while to get there. In these last couple of weeks, they put a butt kicking on Temple. Some people have nitpicked on some stuff with that. And then last week against Houston, not as many people got to see it as you would think because it was on the SEC network. But word
yes.
spread around that they are not up to par right now and headed to Tulane. Some people are a little skeptical of what's going to happen. How are you feeling about them against Temple, Owen?
I want to remind you mean yeah, Tulane. I want to remind the folks from in this Louisiana, Tulane,
Yes, New Orleans. Yeah.
the year that they had that we had to reschedule the away game and
Yes.
host it in Norman. We painted their logo. I pay attention to this stuff. We painted the Tulane logo on the 25-yard line in honor of their gesture, okay,
Yes.
giving us an extra home game. I want to remind the Tulane friends about that. To go easy on us. Can you imagine we're saying go easy on us, Tulane? But that's what I've been listening to you guys on the radio, and I pay attention to what you guys say in the hall and the variety of people I trust in the sports media. And there's been a lot of nervousness and a lot of real analytics behind what could happen against Tulane. But I feel like we could be surprised that potentially the coaching staff decided to whip it in gear. But at the end of the day, I think the facts and the stats are there, and the available players and what the roster's already kind of beaten and bruised. It's weird to think that we're anxious for Tulane, not even getting into real conference play yet.
And then whenever Oklahoma does get into conference play, I mean, it is hot and heavy. I think I counted the other day. Five teams are ahead of Oklahoma. Oklahoma's 15th in the poll, and I believe five teams are ahead of them in the poll that they're going to have to play. And LSU is right behind them at
Yeah.
16. So,
Yeah.
I mean, these next opponents that they have are all top 20 opponents, and all of them with NFL caliber players. And Owen, this is what everybody was so excited to be a part of, and
Yes.
we're about a week away.
Yeah, when Castiglione's putting his name at the bottom of that paper and signing the deal with the SEC, you had to have felt that, yeah, we're going to do it, right? Well, now we're doing it. Now the schedule's here, and the reality of being in this position. I don't know, I don't know if I heard a take in regards to what the SEC is overall, though, and it's just another football conference. And outside of your two or three powerhouses, I mean, here, let's just join them. If you can't beat them, join them. And so we're going to see how that leads, especially when Josh Heupel comes to town. That will be a unique, true test that if we'll just get beat or will we get beaten and bruised at the same time in the SEC next.
The last thing you want to see whenever you go somewhere new, whether it's a guy you fired, right? God, you walk in. Could you imagine going to a restaurant
Yes.
and the guy that's serving you is a guy that you fired? I
Hmm.
imagine there's some special sauce on your food coming out.
Well, and think of his career in Norman, his fantastic national championship, but got overlooked for the Heisman Trophy that year. He went to New York City, and it seems like he was not that had anything to do with his coaching years, but I mean, his history with us is great. But then it turned
Hmm.
into the old mule shoe treatment that worked us over on that end. We could
Yeah,
really use a
God.
great offensive coordinator these days, but you know.
Well, the thing is too, back then, if you remember, there was either the offense or defense that needed to be taken care of, and for some reason, he kept the defensive guy. I can't remember. I think, oh gosh, what was that guy's name? Oh, Mike Stoops. That's who Bob
Oh,
Stoops kept. He kept Mike
oh,
Stoops. So I don't really know what went into it, Owen, but
yeah.
yeah, he had to make a change, and so he changed the guy that spelled Heupel weird rather than Stoops. So yeah, I think that
Got to
has
keep it in
something
the
to do with it
family.
too. Yep, yep, yep.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, it'll be interesting, and it's weird to be nervous for Tulane, but here we are.
All right, so Jake FM, you were there for a little while, and then you left for a little while, and then you came back. I'll be honest with you, it completely stunk when you were gone, and now it's back good again. And you
Well,
do
that's
the
nice of you to say.
you do the you do the stuff with the morning crew. Just I want to get your thoughts on country music today. I mean, I'm an '80s and '70s country music fan, right?
Yeah.
And I actually my first gig, not a civilian, but in the the radio biz, I was DJing a sober country club back in the early '90s. So
Was
I
it called a
had
sober cut? Like that was the idea? Was it a sober
yep,
country club?
not associate with AA, but it was a
Yes.
place where you could come and then in the middle of the show, we would stop it and we would ask people how many weeks, how many months, how many years they've been sober,
That's kind
and
of
then
cool.
back to dancing. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
And
my
of
first
course, country music is just about all you can play.
well, the
I
whiskey
think
isn't working anymore by Travis Tritt. There's a tear in my beer. I mean,
yes.
yeah, you could get
It
on
only makes
forever.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whiskey
That was a
River,
short
big,
playlist.
yeah, big hit. But I've gone back and forth with it the last couple of years. Um, the
Quit
better
bragging.
the better looking the country artists get, the further I stay away from it. There's just something about a super attractive country artist and male in
Yeah.
particular that I had to
Yeah.
stay away from.
I mean, I'd say Parker McCollum has got some good stuff. He's a good-looking guy. Maybe you should look at their wives too and see how that relates to their music. I mean, but look at the gruff Chris Stapleton,
Yeah,
fantastic sound. Zach Bryan. I mean, there's a reason he wears a hat like you do, Jerry. But I mean, right when it comes down to it, I think you're right with that analysis. You got the attractive bro country that then the dew falls off that rose, as we say, like Luke Bryan. I mean, poor guy. He's had a great career. He's in his 40s, and I feel like he might need, if he wants to keep that persona, he needs to call Ozempic or something. I don't know. I'm being rude, and that's not nice. But the current state of country music, it feels like it's been in the same, I don't know, zone for about the past decade or so, where you've got people who just can't stand the Florida Georgia Lines or the Luke Bryans or these new guys who have the bro country, but being on a radio station that plays them, there's a place for it when it comes down to easy summertime mainly type feel good music, and there's an audience for it, and obviously they're consuming it and spending money and making these people famous. But then there's the artsy side of me that wants to go deeper in the red dirt or the folksy underground stuff, and the audience of people who want to feel like they've discovered somebody and they can't stand it if there's any more than a couple handful of fellow underground fans. So country music is broad in that sense, in that you've got subgenres almost
yeah.
kind of along with what it is. And I had a cousin over here last weekend he loves Post Malone, absolutely a Posty fan. I
Sure.
said, have you tried his country album? He said, I couldn't stand it. So he loves Post Malone, but the sound and the style and the collaborations, he couldn't spend any more than looking at the title on Spotify and hitting next.
Yeah.
And that's, the way some people look at country as a whole, just because of I think the shiny objects in the room like bro country. So I think if you dive into it, you can find there's a place for a lot of people in country when it comes to being a fan. But the overall uh, mainstream consumption, it can kind of seem very AI written. Almost songs sound better written by AI. You know what I'm trying to say?
Sure.
Is that there's a sense that it's just cookie cutter at
Yeah.
the end of the day. When truly country music, you talk about the 70s and the 80s, it didn't come from a cookie cutter format. You watch the Ken Burns documentary of how it derived from jazz and different cultures and
Sure.
gospel.
Yep.
It has it's intertwined into what it is today, even though it does feel awfully cookie cutter on some levels. But I think there's a level of country music for everybody.
Yeah, listen, the addition of the mandolin and the banjo in popular music and rock music, I think
Yes.
there's a certain blending of genres that if it wasn't for country music, they wouldn't have that. They wouldn't have those influences. And you look at the influence that Dolly Parton's had on the pop world, and you look
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus has had on the pop world. And
Yes.
kind of all those have that real tense country, that country root. And another one who has country roots is Taylor Swift, who just last year invaded the NFL fandom. Congratulations, the Chiefs and that dud and Travis Kelsey. He ended up dating her. I don't know if you heard about that or not. He's dating her, and yeah.
We're all over it. I mean, we have a daily minute dedicated to those two. No, not
And
really.
now we find out yesterday that she has now went ahead and backed a presidential nominee. She said yesterday that she's going to back Kamala Harris. I don't
Yeah.
want to get into the politics. I don't want to fall asleep in the
I
politics.
do.
But but what's the importance of someone like Taylor Swift and just like that popular icon? And whenever they back like a political side there, I mean, do you, as somebody who kind of pays attention to the entertainment world, I mean, does it make that big of a difference?
Possibly, you always think about there's some people in our hallway at the radio station who do political talk,
Yeah,
and I always remember them referring to voter turnout. Will her audience, first of all, register? Are they registered? Will they turn out? So that's only where it becomes significant, is do they actually show up to the polls? Other than that, you've got a candidate who's going to, of course, embrace any popular endorsement. I mean, the same week or the couple days ago that Kamala Harris was endorsed by Taylor Swift, the president of Russia also backed his support to Kamala. So you can look at how will that affect things. Maybe his may affect it more negatively for her than you'd want it to. But if it influences people and they're basing their decisions based off of someone they enjoy their art, then that's more power to them. And that's the extent of their research. Although I will respect and appreciate Taylor Swift for saying in her post, I did my research. I encourage you to do the same and have that thoughtful process. And if your research lands on Kamala Harris and that's the route it took you because you believe in the things that she's supporting, then that's what our democracy is all about. And I think it's a good thing in the sense that Taylor Swift, being a younger person, and she's just a little older than me, and the generation of mine and younger need to know the importance of voting. My sister was, just a couple of years older than me, just a few years ago became registered.
yeah.
I was a little unique in that 18 years old, I couldn't wait. You need to get that pride in being able to practice your right to vote kind of invigorated at an early age. And I feel for sure that's what Taylor Swift has done by stepping up and at least endorsing and encouraging you to research.
And then my opinion, and just real quick, I think the Russian president backing her is going to be negative, and just because of the stuff he did with Florida Georgia line back in the day, it was terrible. It was so bad. So
Yeah.
don't listen to it. Don't even go back and listen.
I won't. I
Okay.
won't. Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about, but it sounds funny.
Owen Pickard, thank you so much for
Hey, this
joining
is
me.
fun. You got a fun thing going on here. And the next time I need a big roll off, tell me again who I need to call.
Oh, look at you. You know how this works. Extreme roll-off service. You darn
Yeah.
right you call them. It's area code 405-397-3342. You got a little job, they got the 10 yards. You got a medium
Yes.
job, they got the 20 yards. And if you got heck, we got to get rid of this stuff, 30 yards, they can take care of
Extreme
every bit of
roll off.
your roll-off needs.
Jerry, you're great. And I want to encourage people to start the movement to end the movement of disrespecting Mr. TV's Jerry. I'm still on
We'll,
that train.
we'll see. We'll see how that gets there. That you and
Okay.
Taylor, if you and Taylor Swift can get it, boy, we're really set.
So that we get her on board.
Thanks a lot, Owen.
They say, yeah.